And we're back, part 3, King Siler, Rookies versus Vetz 4, Genesis. Let's go ahead and keep it pushing right into the next battle prediction. Next battle we got Skeme versus Brute. Young people's battle, two young men going at it. In this next battle, let's see what we got. So starting with Skeme, and not a lot of y'all may not know him, but this is Freakazoid's oldest son. He's been dancing for quite a while. I think probably like 4 years or so. He's a kid. So, but you'll definitely see him. So he is Buck, live and raw. Specialities, highlights, Buck moments, and freestyle ability. And then, of course, his opponent is Brute, who is cocky, beefy, and Buck. Specialities, highlights, speed control, and live moments. Now, when I look at this particular battle, there are a lot of variables that go into this particular one. Brute, of course, is, still kind of in that year where he's kind of making his return back to the game. Of course, the pandemic smacked for a little bit. And, of course, he couldn't really gain up as much momentum as he wanted to, but he is still out here working. Definitely just came off of the 2-2 at the King of the Ring alongside Lil Crush. The old Prince Flesh Killer, now Lil Crush. And of course, like I said, a lot of y'all don't know Skeme. He has been dancing for quite some time. He just doesn't really get to come to the events like that, but it still is very extremely talented. Nonetheless, y'all didn't get to see him, but the last time that Houston came out here last year, I think around August, he had a really dope round that he threw out there in the midst of the session, and he's extremely talented. So with that being said, based off of all the information I have here and what I've seen in person, my prediction, I'm edging Brute with the win on the basis of experience and consistency, which is worth stating because when we look at this particular scenario, one thing that I definitely want to highlight as far as for Skeme, and I notice this every single time that he dances, most people don't realize that kids don't show fear or have battle anxiety when they dance. Most kids, at least around that age, like they're not worried about it. They're just simply worried about dancing. So anything they do is completely composed off of how they feel in that particular moment. And if you've ever battled a kid, like kids literally show no fear. If y'all haven't gotten that from this generation, then you consider yourself blessed, because battling a kid, in my personal opinion, is the worst, because everything that they've been taught, memorized, they have no qualms about, taking risks. They got that youth, that young people, kicking a step and stuff like that. Their body just recovers just like that, and their stamina is outrageous. So I think that person makes Skeme very, very dangerous. Fundamentally wise and get off wise, I'm leaning towards Skeme, but battle wise and creative wise, I'm leaning towards Brute. I personally think this battle can go either way. It just simply depends on how well Brute is able to get comfortable. In his last battle, he did well, but I still think he's kind of definitely getting his footing back. But like I said, when you put Skeme out there, he's not going to have any second thoughts or, like I said, or any fear about, getting out there and dancing. Everything he's practiced on, he's simply going to do. He's one of those type of kids in Crump. So, like I said, my prediction is going to Brute, but it can go either way. Next battle, probably the number one battle that I am most excited about, or easily one of the top three, Horus versus Savage. Horus, start with him. So he is Buck, street, and live, specializing as highlights in moment awareness, language, and live moments. Now, Savage is very material and character heavy. Buck, grimy, and can get live when he wants to. He specializes in pockets, abstract material, and pretty much all of the above. I think it's worth noting that all my time in Crump, I have always categorized Savage as the deadliest veteran in the South. I've always thought, like, even back in the day when he used to dance, he was ahead of his time. I did have the privilege to battle him. It was a dope battle. But to this day, like, when I watch him dance, like, the amount of creativity that he's able to put into his rounds always surprises me. You know, he may not necessarily be the fastest or the livest or whatever the case may be, but I've always thought that like Savage has always had complete and 100% control of what he wants to do when he gets out there on that dance floor. So that's worth noting. Now, my prediction when I look at this, I have Savage winning both rounds. Now, keep in mind, biggest factor here, in my opinion, will be Savage's approach and character. I believe if Savage sticks to his game plan, i.e. being himself, he'll secure a win. But if he tries to go live for live or, you know, jab for jab with Horus, I think he'll lose. Horus is faster, moves quicker than Savage does. So I think it's definitely going to be a chess match here, in my personal opinion, at least on Savage's side. We saw how Horus was dancing. He's lost an incredible amount of weight. And, you know, in 2020, and like watching him dance at King of the Ring in that tournament, he looks exactly like Spartan. Exactly like Spartan. Like very light on his feet, his balance, his arm placements, his language, spot on. If Spartan had a younger brother that was created through Crump, that would be the dude. That's no disrespect to any of these other little homies and nothing like that, or anybody that was or is in his fam, but Horus looks exactly like him. Now, on the upside of this, I do believe that Horus has a chance of winning if he's got some killers or some moves in the bag or something like that he can use to kind of delude Savage's presence on the dance floor. Now, if you ever watch Savage, like I said before, when he gets on the dance floor, he completely owns it 100%. Like, sets the tone for it. You're going to work, you're going to hype at his pace. You're not going to rush him. You know, you're not going to get him off his game plan, and he's going to stop whenever he's ready and whenever he wants to. One thing that is definitely, I always thought was like a crazy cheat code, which I have to give him his props because it's a 100% total veteran move, is that, like I said before, Savage is not the most livest person, but his ability to stack material, get off, and just simply crump and execute is almost like the best way that I was thinking about it when I was putting this together, is that your typical person will, on a scale to 1 to 10, let's just say 10 is liveness. That's the live point. Your average person will push their round all the way up to about 5 and then try and get live and get all the way to 10. That's what the typical people do. They'll basically force the liveness or force the moment, as they say. When you look at Savage or when you watch him dance, and please, by all means, you can go back and watch his rounds. Savage is a master as far as making sure that his rounds works at a steady pace to where he'll push it as far as he possibly can, push it a little bit more, push it a little bit more, and then when he wants to get live, he'll probably get up to like an 8 or 9 and then just max out. And then by that time, like, it makes your round look like nothing because you executed everything perfectly. But in terms of like having that moment awareness, knowing when to capitalize, when to turn up, like when to push the material or, you know, give one more combo or a hat move or whatever the case may be, Savage is a master at that. He is a master at that. And I guess for lack of better words, you can call him a master tactician because that's exactly what he does whenever he battles. I can't recall any battle that I've ever seen him do where he didn't have a game plan that he was going into. So that's why, I guess for lack of better words, if you don't get it by now, that's why I believe Savage will win both rounds. Like I said, Horus does have a chance, but this is going to be one of them situations to where Savage is going to have to play this smart. Again, don't get into a boxing match or a jab for jab or a brawl with a younger person. It won't do anything for you. So we shall see. Next battle, we got Mr. Wow versus Matrix. Now, Mr. Wow is live, caddy, material, and combo heavy. He specializes and his highlights are in live moments and combos. Now, Mr. Matrix, he is theatrical, material heavy, and buck. Specializes in hat, shoe moves, and cocky and flashy moments. For lack of better words, and I would just kind of think about it, he's very good at, I guess what we would consider battle tactics. It's kind of like instigating. You know, I watched a lot of his footage, and I was definitely noticing that some of, and this is not a slight towards Matrix in any way, but some of his best moments come after he does his combo or he does his move. Like if you kind of go back and you watch his battle with X-Ray in his first round, after he does his hat move, he kind of like, keeps kind of stacking material, twisting the hat to the side, like kind of bucking, just keeping that moment alive. And like as he's kind of doing it, there was even one cool moment where I saw when he battled Basics, where he kind of did a hat move and he kind of did a little taunt clapping behind his back, like, how Basics did, I think, in like one of his battles a couple years back. But he kind of instigated that, he was kind of taunting him and stuff like that. So I thought that was like really great battle tactics, and Matrix does that very well. So I think that's definitely worth noting for sure. So my prediction for this battle, I think it's a debatable battle, but I'm personally leaning towards Mr. Wow for his consistency. Now here's the issue. So some of Matrix's move you don't land, or they usually include a high risk. So when they fail, it has a tendency to kill his rounds. Now in the case that, perhaps, and I think this is personally where Matrix's best opportunity to win comes in, is if we get a Kid Rip, or maybe just a Kid Rip with a more slower or theatrical pace, or even just Matrix. You ain't even got to go into the style rubber bag. But I think that if he has a slower, more theatrical pace, I think that presents a better opportunity for him to win. I don't think trying to match liveness or trying to match move for move with Mr. Wow is going to help you. I personally think that Wow is better in terms of like, capturing live moments. I think we've only really seen him stumble up like in one to where he wasn't able to capitalize, and that was like 2 years ago or 2-3 years ago against Spartan. But Spartan is a very tough adversary. One aspect is just simply not enough. But I definitely don't think it would be a good idea for Matrix to try and go, buck for live, or tit for tat with Mr. Wow on that level. So I think his best bet is to, like I said previously with Savage, play the chess match, play the long game, win the battle. You ain't got to have necessarily the most livest rounds. I personally don't believe that winning battles can be surrounded around one particular thing. Like if you're not completely diluting or, making your opponent's entire rounds, look worthless, then you didn't really win overall. I understand there's some close margin battles and stuff like that to where you do have to kind of go by the checklist, so to speak, as some people, judge battles. But I think in this particular situation, it'd just be important for you to win overall. So I think, Kid Rip, this would be a nice place to present that. I don't think we really had a lot of opportunities to see Kid Rip since you've had the chance to join the fam. So hope to see that. But like I said, my prediction, I'm going Mr. Wow for the win. Alrighty. And then we have Debo versus RockSolid. Now, Debo is rowdy, raw, and buck. And then we have his highlights or specializes in raw and powerful moments. Then his opponent is RockSolid, who's buck, rowdy, and live. Specializes in material and buck and live moments. Now, I have had the ability to definitely watch both of these two for quite some time, obviously simply because RockSolid is from the town. He's from Houston, from the state, the region. Debo, I've only had the opportunity to probably watch him like 3 or 4 times. Of course, he was just in Mississippi, and he was out here for King of the Ring, and then a couple other events that I can't name off the top of my head, but I have seen him a couple of times. And there was one time I remember seeing him for the first time back, like when I went over to the East Coast and stuff like that, like a long time ago. I think it's for like the Coliseum or something like that. But based off of the information, I haven't really got a lot of information on him. Tried to look up some footage. Unfortunately, wasn't able to find a lot. So I can only go based off of what I've actually physically seen and what I was able to find on the internet. So my prediction, I've got RockSolid winning both rounds. So my opinion as far as like what I'm seeing at this one is that I think Debo's tight, and I definitely think that he definitely captures some moments, some really raw and live moments when the setting or maybe the atmosphere is right. But I haven't seen him necessarily dish out anything super crazy that I believe RockSolid can't rebuttal. I think RockSolid is definitely developing a versatile skill set for himself in terms of like just making sure that you're, hitting all categories. He is definitely around a creative group of people. He's a part of the rap fam, so of course they have a different approach to everything. Everything isn't just about hard hitting gully, buck, raw, crump, and stuff like that. There's an artistic feel to what they bring to the table as well. So yeah, I think in this case, if RockSolid's able to keep his head, and this doesn't turn into a pushing match, because I know Debo, will kind of get close to you, but he ain't too handsy or nothing like that, and I know RockSolid don't like people touching him. As long as they don't turn into a pushing match, I think RockSolid will win. But you need to make sure that you keep your head on you. But again, like I say, I don't put nothing past nobody. But with that being said, please no touching this battle. That's all I'm gonna say, because ain't nobody finna break up nothing. COVID's out here. It's cold. I'm not finna do none of that. But yeah, so that's that for those battles. We'll see who takes the win on those.